What if the moment you thought your life was falling apart was actually the moment everything began? She walked into that building with nothing. No money, no family, just a crumpled portfolio and a prayer. And in the span of one elevator ride, her world turned upside down. She fainted, right into the arms of a billionaire CEO. What happened next? Not even she could have imagined. A job offer, a love story, a fight against the odds. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a story about courage, second chances, and choosing love when the world says you don't belong. Stay with us, because her fall was only the beginning. It was supposed to be the most important day of her life. But instead, she collapsed. The morning sun cast a golden haze across downtown Chicago as Emily Rivers stood frozen in front of the sleek glass skyscraper of Vantage Interactive. Her hands trembled as she held her faux leather portfolio, well-used, slightly frayed at the corners. Her reflection in the lobby's polished marble revealed tired eyes, a thin frame, and a fierce determination burning beneath layers of anxiety. She hadn't eaten. Again. Not out of neglect, but necessity. Her last dollar had gone to paying the electric bill. This wasn't just another interview. This was her shot. The one shot she had to land. For herself, and for her 17-year-old brother Liam. Ever since their parents died in a highway crash 3 years ago, Emily had been the only one holding their tiny world together. Babysitting jobs, freelance design gigs, skipped meals. She did it all. But it was barely enough. And Liam deserved more. Today she was interviewing for the role of creative strategist at Vantage One, of the most innovative tech firms in the country. She'd stayed up every night for a week, researching the company, memorizing case studies, refining her mock pitch. But none of that could stop the wave of nerves rolling through her as the security guard nodded her toward the elevator. 32nd floor, he said, scanning her visitor badge. They're expecting you. As the elevator climbed, her breath shortened. Floor 10, floor 18, floor 25. The air suddenly felt heavier. Her vision blurred at the edges. Her heart pounded against her ribs as the space narrowed. Floor 30. She reached for the cool metal handrail. Her lips whispered, "You've got this," even as her body started to betray her. A dozen professionals surrounded her, polished, confident. Among them, a tall man in a tailored navy suit stood out speaking softly into his phone. Something about him, the steady voice, the quiet authority, pulled at her attention even through the haze. Then came floor 32. As the elevator dinged open, Emily's knees buckled. A jolt, a gasp, darkness, and then a voice. "Hey, whoa, I've got you." She came to slowly feeling the firm pressure of arms beneath her and the warmth of light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. She wasn't on the elevator floor. She was on a leather couch in a high-rise office. And across from her, that same man, no longer just a stranger, was watching her with eyes full of concern. "Take your time," he said gently. "You're safe now." Emily blinked slowly, sitting upright, cheeks burning with embarrassment. I fainted, didn't I?" He gave a sympathetic smile and rolled up his sleeves, shedding some of his earlier formality. "You did, but you're all right now. When's the last time you ate?" Yesterday evening." She hesitated. I didn't want to risk throwing up from nerves. He raised a brow, then tapped a sleek intercom on his desk. "Kara, could you bring some orange juice and something light to eat?" Emily's eyes widened. "Wait, your desk." The man offered a hand. "I'm Nathan Calloway, CEO." Her mouth dropped open. "I'm Emily Rivers. I was here for the interview." He chuckled. "I figured. You said your name right before you fainted. And I make it a point to personally review finalists for strategic roles. I saw your name on the docket this morning." Her face flushed. This is so humiliating." He shook his head. "Not at all. You're here. You're strong enough to walk into that lobby knowing how much was riding on this. That says a lot more to me than any resume." A knock at the door interrupted them. A woman entered carrying a tray of orange juice, fruit, and pastries. "Thanks, Cora," Nathan said, then turned back to Emily, motioning to the food. "Please, eat slowly." As she sipped the juice, her strength returning, Nathan leaned back and asked, "Tell me about your work, about your brother." Emily froze mid-bite. "How do you know about Liam?" You listed him as your emergency contact, he said, and guardian at 21. That's not something I see every day. I admire that. Emily swallowed hard. Her eyes welled with emotion. Not many people looked past her portfolio to the real weight she carried. Liam's brilliant with computers, she said softly. He's applying for early admission to a university, but I can't afford tutoring or prep classes. This job, it would give us both a shot. Nathan nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. Then he stood, walked over to his desk, and retrieved a small bound copy of her work samples. I've reviewed your portfolio. The campaign you built for that community college, that was genius. Emily's eyes widened. You actually read it, twice he said with a grin. And in that moment, the job interview she thought she'd blown had just truly begun. Emily sat upright, still clutching the now empty glass of orange juice, unsure whether she was dreaming or living a scene from one of those impossible feel-good movies she and Liam used to watch on her laptop during power outages. Across from her, Nathan Calloway, the man behind one of the most influential tech firms in the country, was flipping through her design portfolio like it was the Sunday comics. Except, his expression was anything but casual. This he said, pointing to a spread. This nonprofit project for the Chicago Literacy Fund. You took a subject most companies treat like charity filler and gave it real soul. You told a story. Emily blinked, unsure whether to speak or let him continue. She decided silence was safer. Nathan looked up. I've sat through pitch meetings with multi-million-dollar agencies who couldn't pull off that kind of human connection. She let out a nervous laugh, still unsure if this was a preamble to the "but we're going in another direction" line. It was a passion project. They couldn't afford much, but I believed in the cause. That's exactly what makes it powerful, Nathan said. You don't design like a contractor. You design like someone who gives a damn. Emily's mouth parted slightly. Thank you. Nathan set the portfolio down, leaned forward slightly, and rested his elbows on his knees. Here's what I'm thinking. You and I talk, not an interview, a real conversation. I want to know how you think, how you solve. She hesitated. You're still considering me. He smiled. Emily, you fainted in my elevator. You've got guts showing up here. I'm not going to punish you for being human. A wave of emotion crept up her throat, but she forced it down. She'd cried enough in front of strangers over the past 3 years. Today wasn't going to be one of those days. So they talked. For nearly an hour, Nathan asked questions no one had ever thought to ask her, about how she approached storytelling through design, what problems she believed tech should solve, what brands had inspired her as a kid, and why. His questions weren't tests. They were challenges. And somehow, she met each one with answers that surprised even herself. They laughed at shared frustrations, corporate cliches, tech jargon, boardroom theatrics. Nathan told her about an intern who once wore a superhero cape to a product demo because he believed brands needed to save the day. Emily laughed harder than she had in months. She started to forget she was being evaluated. She forgot about the wrinkles in her blazer, the ache in her stomach, the worn soles of her flats. For the first time in years, she felt seen. Not as a struggling sister trying to survive, but as someone with something real to offer. When the conversation naturally paused, Nathan leaned back in his chair, the city skyline glowing behind him. Well, he said, I've seen enough. Emily stiffened. Enough to know I'm offering you the position, he added. She blinked. Wait, what? I want you on the team. As creative strategist, you'll work directly with our senior campaigns group. Her jaw dropped. But we didn't even do a formal interview. I didn't meet the panel or give a presentation. Nathan waved a hand. I've sat through hundreds of formal interviews. Most tell me nothing. What we just did, that told me everything. You have talent vision and the kind of grounded perspective we desperately need. Emotion surged through her again, but this time it wasn't anxiety. It was relief so overwhelming it felt like standing in the sun after weeks of rain. She whispered, Yes. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Nathan stood and extended his hand. When she took it, a spark passed between them. Nothing theatrical, but something unmistakable. And in his eyes she saw a flicker of something more than professional approval. Something warmer. He cleared his throat, stepped back, and added, You'll start next Monday. Kara will handle onboarding. Emily nodded, still dazed. As he walked her toward the door, she turned and said, "Thank you for everything, for catching me, for not making me feel small, and for giving me this shot." Nathan smiled. "No need to thank me. Just bring that same heart to the office every day. I have a feeling you're going to change more than just our creative team, Emily Rivers." As the elevator doors closed behind her, she barely remembered pressing the button. She felt like she was floating, part exhilaration, part disbelief. She had come into that building terrified. She'd lose everything. Instead, she left with the one thing she hadn't dared to hope for in a very long time: a future. 3 months had passed since Emily Rivers had walked into Vantage Interactive and fainted in the elevator, and now she practically ran the creative floor. The shy, nervous girl who had once trembled in front of security guards was now leading pitch meetings with confidence and commanding the attention of million-dollar clients. What had started as a long shot was fast becoming a legendary transformation. Her campaigns were bold, raw, and deeply human. She wasn't interested in shiny slogans or trendy buzzwords. Emily dug deeper. She pulled stories out of user data, turned customer frustrations into relatable visuals, and made every brand feel like it belonged to real people. Clients noticed, and more importantly, they requested her by name. The Vantage offices, with their minimalist glass walls and bright collaborative spaces, began to hum with a new kind of energy. And somewhere amidst that momentum, Nathan Calloway kept finding reasons to wander down to the creative wing. At first, it was under the guise of checking in on campaign progress. Then it became quick updates on product roadmaps. Eventually, it turned into morning coffee drops and long hallway chats about design theory, world news, and occasionally, nothing at all. No one openly commented on it, yet everyone noticed. Emily tried her best to ignore the way her heart fluttered when Nathan approached. She told herself it was just admiration, gratitude, the natural result of someone finally believing in her. But deep down, she knew better. There was a moment one Thursday morning that stuck with her. She was struggling with a layout for a youth banking app. The interface wasn't clicking, too clinical, too boring. She'd been staring at the screen for an hour when Nathan appeared at her desk, holding 2 cups from the artisan cafe downstairs. "Thought you could use a caffeine rescue," he said, setting one beside her keyboard. Emily smiled, rubbing her eyes. "You must have some kind of design radar." He pulled up a chair. "Show me what's driving you crazy." She walked him through her dilemma. The challenge of making financial literacy feel empowering to teenagers, especially those from underprivileged backgrounds. She talked about Liam's friends' kids who were smart but overwhelmed by things like FAFSA forms and credit scores. Nathan listened, really listened. Then he said something that struck her. "You mentioned Liam a lot. You're proud of him." "I am," Emily said quietly. "He's already building web tools on his own. He's so driven, but I worry." "About what?" "That I'm not doing enough. That no matter how hard I work, he'll still miss out. That he needs a family, not just a sister who's winging it." Nathan leaned in slightly, his voice low and warm. "Emily, from everything I've seen, Liam already has what most kids never get. Someone who believes in him without limits." Her throat tightened, and for a second, she couldn't speak. Their eyes met, and that unspoken electricity between them surged again, stronger this time. But just as she was about to say something, her phone buzzed. A text from Liam's school. "Urgent, please, call the principal. No need to panic, but we need to speak with you immediately." Emily's stomach dropped. She stood up abruptly. "I have to go. Something happened with Liam." Nathan was already rising. "Do you need a ride?" "No, Emily, let me help." She nodded, too shaken to argue. The 20-minute drive to Westbridge High was a blur. Emily explained the situation in fragments. Liam had a gift with computers, but struggled with boundaries. He hated seeing his friends fall behind in school just because their families couldn't afford tutoring. Nathan listened closely, then said something that surprised her. Whatever happened, he was probably trying to protect someone. When they arrived, Principal Dawson led them into his office, where Liam sat waiting, nervous but defiant. He had been caught accessing the school system, not to cheat for himself, but to raise the grades of several students who were at risk of losing their scholarships. "I know it was wrong," Liam said, looking at Emily, "but they're smart. They just don't have the same chances. I wanted to level the playing field." Nathan leaned forward, not as a CEO, but as a human being. "What would you do if the school let you fix the system legally?" Liam blinked. "You mean Create a real solution. Exactly, Nathan said. A research-based proposal. A real support structure. Principal Dawson raised an eyebrow. Are you suggesting an alternative to suspension? I'm suggesting a challenge, Nathan said, glancing at Emily. Something that might actually change lives. By the end of the meeting, Liam had agreed to spend his weekend developing a proposal for a student mentoring and scholarship awareness program. The school gave him conditional approval, and Emily could finally breathe again. On the drive home, Liam peppered Nathan with questions about tech entrepreneurship, mentorship, and social change. Nathan answered, everyone treating him like a colleague, not a child. As they pulled up to Emily's building, Nathan turned to her and said quietly, "He's remarkable, just like his sister." Emily smiled faintly. "Thank you for helping. You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he replied, then added, "Not because of your job, because I care." Their eyes locked. And for the first time, Emily allowed herself to wonder, what if this connection was more than just professional? That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The events of the day played over and over in her mind. Liam's bold, but risky attempt to help his classmates, the tense meeting at the school, Nathan's unwavering support, and the way he'd looked at her as if she mattered beyond spreadsheets and campaign decks. She sat on their tiny apartment's balcony, a chipped mug of tea in her hands, the Chicago skyline twinkling faintly in the distance. Liam was inside, already researching scholarship programs and sketching out ideas for his new initiative. There was a new energy in him, a sense of purpose. Nathan had given him that. The next morning, Emily found herself at her desk before sunrise. She didn't want to see Nathan. Not yet. Her heart was too loud, her thoughts too tangled. She buried herself in work editing an EcoBrand's ad copy, trying to silence the memory of Nathan's voice in the car. But by mid-afternoon, her door creaked open. Nathan stepped in slowly, his usual air of authority replaced by a hesitance she hadn't seen before. "We need to talk," he said. Emily nodded, but didn't look up from her laptop. "Your mother already made her position very clear." He froze. "You spoke to her." She closed the lid of her laptop. "She showed up yesterday in HR, offered me 6 months severance, glowing references, and even promised to help Liam get into whatever school he wanted." Nathan's jaw clenched. She had no right. She made a compelling argument. Emily interrupted. "She said I was just a project, something you're drawn to temporarily. And when the novelty wears off..." "That's not true," he snapped, then quieter. "That's not true." She finally met his eyes. "Isn't it?" Silence filled the room. "I don't belong in your world, Nathan," she said softly. "Your circle, your family, your legacy, none of it was built for people like me. Your mother sees that. So do your investors." Nathan stepped forward, emotion tightening his voice. "Emily, I don't care what they see. I know what I see." Which is, he hesitated, then said the word she'd been avoiding since day one. "I see someone who makes me better, who challenges me, who reminds me why I started this company in the first place." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "You're the CEO of a billion-dollar empire, Nathan. And I'm the girl who fainted in your elevator. You said it yourself. You've never met someone like me. But maybe that's because I don't belong here." Nathan didn't flinch. "You belong exactly where you are." She turned away, unable to look at him. "I just need time." "Then take it," he said gently. "But understand this. I'm not giving up on you." That night, Emily sat with Liam over dinner, picking at her food. He was animated, sharing updates on the support program he was designing for his school. But he paused when he saw her silence. "You okay?" he asked. She forced a smile. "Just tired." "You're thinking about Nathan, huh?" She chuckled despite herself. "Is it that obvious? You like him?" She didn't answer. "Emily," Liam said, setting down his fork, "don't let someone else decide what you deserve. Not even his mother. You've earned everything you have, and you taught me not to give up just because something's hard." Her throat tightened again. Why did her little brother always know the exact thing to say? 2 days later, the company's annual stakeholder gala loomed. Emily had planned to skip it. Too much pressure. Too many people in designer gowns. Too many eyes that might already be whispering about her. But that morning, an envelope appeared on her desk. Inside was a note in Nathan's handwriting. "Come tonight, not for the shareholders, for me." and beneath the note a small, elegant box. Inside was a delicate necklace, not flashy, not expensive looking, just simple silver and beautiful. Like he knew exactly what she would pick for herself. Emily stared at the note for a long time. Then, for the first time in days, she allowed herself to smile. The ballroom at the Fairmont Grand shimmered like something out of a dream, or a nightmare depending on your perspective. For Emily Rivers, it was both. She arrived early alone, wearing a borrowed dress from her neighbor 2 floors up. It was navy blue floor length and a little too big in the shoulders, but it made her feel like she belonged, at least until she stepped into the sea of sleek gowns, glittering jewelry, and crisp tuxedos. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above polished marble floors. Waiters glided past with silver trays of champagne. Investors, executives, and industry icons laughed easily in their curated corners of power. Emily slipped past them all, clutching her tiny purse like a lifeline. She spotted Nathan almost immediately. He stood near the stage, speaking with 2 board members. Even in a room filled with power suits and elite pedigree, he stood out. Not just because he looked devastatingly handsome in a tailored black tux, but because he looked real. Like the man who had held her hand when Liam was in trouble. Like the man who brought her coffee without asking. And for a second she allowed herself to simply watch him. That was when Victoria Calloway arrived. You couldn't miss her, tall, impeccably styled, wearing a cream-colored dress that screamed old money and sharp opinions. She was flanked by 2 socialites and moved like a queen entering court. Her eyes swept the room and locked directly on Emily. The smile Victoria offered was polite, dazzling even, but behind it was a warning that needed no words. Emily swallowed hard and turned toward the far end of the ballroom, searching for something, anything to anchor herself. But the night refused to let her disappear. As the crowd quieted and the stage lights rose, Nathan stepped up to the podium. He launched into his annual address, quarterly performance, highlights, user growth metrics, sustainability initiatives. It was polished, safe, everything the board wanted to hear. But then, something changed. He paused, just long enough to make people shift in their seats. "I'd like to take a moment," he said, voice steady but deeper now, to speak not as a CEO, but as a man who's learning what really matters. Emily's heart stopped. Nathan scanned the crowd until he found her, and then eyes locked on hers, he continued. "This year has been a turning point for Vantage Interactive, but not just because of numbers, because of people, one in particular. Someone who reminded me that innovation isn't just about tech. It's about courage, compassion, and connection." A ripple ran through the audience. Nathan's voice rose slightly. "I'm speaking of Emily Rivers, our creative strategist, and the most inspiring person I've met in a long time." Gasps, whispers, phones raised. Emily froze. Nathan took a breath. "I don't care if it's inappropriate to say this at a shareholder gala. I don't care what the board thinks. What I care about is truth." Then, with the entire room watching, he said the words that shattered every barrier. "I'm in love with her." A beat of silence, then chaos. Victoria Calloway's expression curdled. Nathan stepped down from the podium, walked through the stunned crowd, and came directly to Emily. He didn't stop, didn't hesitate. He extended his hand. "Emily Rivers, will you dance with me?" She didn't think, she just moved. As the orchestra, clearly seizing the moment, began playing a slow romantic waltz, he led her to the center of the dance floor. They swayed together under the soft glow of chandeliers, the room swirling around them in muted astonishment. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "I did," Nathan said. "I needed them. And you, to know this isn't a project. It's not a whim. It's real, and I'm not hiding it anymore." She looked up into his eyes, the fear she'd carried for weeks, melting into something deeper. "You're going to make a lot of people angry," she murmured. He smiled. "Let them try. I've spent my whole life living for their expectations. Tonight, I'm choosing my happiness." Some guests whispered, some smiled, some rolled their eyes. Victoria Calloway left the room entirely. But Emily barely noticed, because for the first time in years, she wasn't surviving. She was living, and she was doing it in the arms of the one man she'd never imagined could love someone like her. The fallout came swiftly, not with rage or scandalous headlines, but with precision. The next morning, Emily arrived at the Vantage Interactive office 2 hours early, not to get a head start on work. She just needed Silence. A moment to think, to breathe. After the gala, she hadn't gone home with Nathan. She couldn't. The night had been magical, yes, but also terrifying. She knew the weight of public declarations, especially ones made by CEOs under the glare of investor scrutiny. The way the room had watched her, judged her. It clung to her like a second skin. She'd just finished reviewing a presentation draft when a soft knock tapped at her office door. Once Izzy's died. It wasn't Nathan. It was Kara from HR looking deeply uncomfortable. "Emily," she said gently, "can you come with me for a moment? Mrs. Calloway is here. She asked to speak with you privately." Emily's stomach turned cold. She followed Kara to a quiet corner office and stepped inside. Victoria Calloway stood near the window, dressed in cream silk again, not a hair out of place. She turned slowly, her expression composed and unreadable. "Miss Rivers," she said, "thank you for agreeing to speak with me." Emily didn't respond. She stood spine straight, heart thudding. Victoria gestured to a chair. "Please." "I'll stand," Emily replied softly. Victoria gave a slight nod. "Very well. I'll be brief." She reached into her bag and produced a sleek black folder. Inside was a formal offer, 6 months of severance pay, glowing letters of recommendation, and personal assistance securing a new role at a Vantage partner firm. A generous exit package. "I'm not here to insult you," Victoria said. "I'm here to protect my son and everything he's worked for." Emily stared at the folder. "This is a buyout. It's a clean exit, dignified, beneficial to everyone. You're talented, Miss Rivers, but talent doesn't erase incompatibility." Emily's jaw tightened. Incompatibility. "My son has responsibilities." Victoria continued smoothly. "To our family, to this company, to the shareholders who've invested their trust and their money in him. Relationships like this, they complicate everything." "You mean people like me?" Emily said, her voice hardening. Victoria offered a smile so polished it could have been glass. "Let's not pretend we live in a fairy tale. You come from a background my son will never truly understand. That's not a judgment. It's reality. And reality has consequences." Emily's fists curled at her sides. "I didn't ask him to love me." "No," Victoria said, stepping closer, "but you accepted it. You let it grow. And now it threatens everything he's built." Emily's voice wavered. "He's not some pawn you get to move." "No," Victoria replied. "He's a legacy. And you, while charming, are a disruption." Then she added almost tenderly, "Think about Liam. With our backing, he could have access to top schools, internships, scholarships, a future you've always dreamed of for him. I could make that happen, quietly, efficiently. If you walk away now," Emily felt as if she were being split in two. One part of her wanted to scream to throw the offer back in Victoria's face. The other it whispered. It showed her Liam at Stanford, Liam at Google, Liam safe. "I need time," she said at last, her voice raw. "Of course," Victoria said, standing, "but don't take too long. Delays complicate things." When Emily left the room, Kara didn't ask anything. She just gave a subtle nod, as if to say, "I'm sorry." That afternoon, Nathan appeared at her office door. He looked tense, almost breathless. "She came to see you." Emily didn't answer. Her silence was enough. "She tried to manipulate you," he said, stepping in. "Whatever she offered, I'll fight it. The board, the investors, her." "She made some valid points," Emily said quietly, cutting him off. Nathan froze. "Emily, she's right," she said, standing. "We don't come from the same world." His expression shattered. "You think this is just a game to me." I think Emily whispered that maybe I've been fooling myself. Nathan took a step forward. "You said you trusted me." "I do, but maybe not enough to believe we could survive this." Tears blurred her vision. "I think you care about me," she said. "But I also think she's right. Sooner or later, you'll look around and realize I was never meant to fit into your world." Nathan's voice cracked. "You do fit. You belong. Don't let her take that from you." But she was already walking to the window, blinking hard, trying to breathe. Nathan stood still for a long moment. Then, voice low but fierce, he said, "No. I'm not letting my mother dictate my life. Or yours. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, Emily. And I won't lose you without a fight." He left the door shutting softly behind him. And Emily, she collapsed into her chair, shaking. The weight of the choice before her was suffocating. Legacy or love. Liam's future or her own heart. And as night fell across the skyline, she realized something terrifying. There might be no right answer. It was the night of the Vantage Interactive annual gala, exactly 6 months to the day since Emily Rivers had fainted in the company's elevator and quite literally fallen into the life of Nathan Calloway. This time she didn't arrive early. She almost didn't arrive at all. But then she thought of Liam, of how he'd looked at her with pride as he showed her the scholarship application he'd completed just that morning, of the way he said, "You inspire me," and meant every word. So she borrowed the same navy dress this time, making small adjustments to make it fit better. She did her own hair. She chose soft makeup. She wore the silver necklace Nathan had gifted her, the one that made her feel not like a CEO's date, but like herself. The venue was the same, the Fairmont Grand. But this time, the stakes were different. She wasn't just the girl no one knew. She was the woman everyone was talking about. Some whispered, some smiled, some turned away when she walked past. She moved like a shadow through the room, stopping only to breathe in the floral arrangement near the entrance. An anchor to remind herself, I belong here, no matter what they think. Meanwhile, Nathan was already deep in conversation with board members near the stage. His suit sharp, his smile professional, but his eyes scanning the room like a man searching for air. When he finally saw her, his posture softened instantly. He made his way toward her, but before he reached her side, the MC tapped the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our founder and CEO, Nathan Calloway. Applause rose, and with it tension, Nathan approached the podium notes in hand, but he didn't read from them. Instead, he looked straight into the crowd and began. This company was built on courage, on taking risks when the easy choice was silence. And tonight, I'm taking one more. A ripple passed through the crowd. I've spent the last 6 months watching someone completely change how I view the world. Someone who came here without privilege or power, but with heart honesty and unmatched talent. Someone who reminded me why connection matters more than control. A hush spread. I've been told that caring for this person might threaten our image, that choosing her might compromise the comfort of legacy, that loving her might be a mistake. He paused. But if it's a mistake, then I don't want to be right. Murmurs grew. I want every person in this room to know something. Not just the investors or the board or the media whispering in the corners. He scanned the audience eyes locking onto Emily. I am in love with Emily Rivers. Gasps. Applause from some. Silence from others. A storm of expression from all directions. Nathan stepped down from the stage, walked slowly, deliberately toward her. And when he reached her, he didn't ask for permission. He held out his hand. Emily, he said, voice trembling, but clear. Will you dance with me? She stood, legs shaky but heart solid. And then she placed her hand in his. The orchestra without a cue shifted into a soft, romantic melody. The floor cleared around them, but Emily saw no one else. Just him. They danced. People watched, yes. But for the first time, she didn't care. Because he had said it, out loud, in front of the entire industry, knowing exactly what it might cost. And still, he chose her. You're brave, she whispered. Nathan chuckled. Took me long enough. You know, your mother is going to declare war now, right? He smiled. She already has. But for once, I'm not fighting her battles. He twirled her gently, then held her close. I'm choosing us, he said softly. And I don't care who tries to tear it down. Over his shoulder, Emily caught sight of Victoria Calloway watching from a darkened corner, lips tight, arms folded. But beside her stood Kara from HR, smiling, clapping, not just for Nathan, for them. By the time the song ended, the whispers had turned to applause. Not from everyone, but enough. Nathan cupped her face, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I meant what I said. Emily swallowed hard. So did I. And then, without fanfare or flair, she kissed him. In the center of the ballroom, in front of the board, the press, his mother. And for the first time since that terrifying elevator ride, she let herself believe it. That love didn't have to make sense to the world. It only had to make sense to them. The months that followed were anything but easy. Some board members quietly expressed concern. A few investors pulled back, subtly politely, but unmistakably. Headlines speculated. anonymous insiders whispered. But what they didn't expect was what came next. Nathan Calloway didn't waver. He remained CEO, kept showing up early, kept leading with the same fire, only now that fire had a new edge, a clarity rooted in something deeper than profits or projections. Emily, meanwhile, continued to thrive in her role. She didn't just hold her position, she elevated it. Her campaigns won awards. Her team doubled in size. She brought in clients Vantage had been chasing for years. And though Victoria Calloway remained cold, distant, and openly displeased, even she couldn't deny the numbers. Vantage Interactive posted its strongest quarterly growth since its inception. But numbers weren't the only transformation. At home, Liam flourished, with Nathan's support, and yes, even Victoria's reluctant influence. He was accepted into a prestigious pre-college computer science program. He landed internships at major tech firms and co-developed a student aid platform that helped thousands of teens navigate scholarships and admissions. Nathan made sure Liam had mentors, resources, a network. But most importantly, he made sure Liam never felt like a charity case. One evening, nearly a year to the day since that fateful elevator incident, Nathan invited Emily to the rooftop garden of Vantage headquarters, the same place they'd shared countless lunch breaks, quiet late-night conversations, first looks, and second chances. The city glowed below them, and Nathan, in his usual rolled-up sleeves and loosened tie, stood beside a table draped in soft lights and wildflowers. Emily smiled. If this is another impromptu creative pitch, I left my laptop downstairs. Nathan turned, holding a small velvet box in his hands. Her breath caught. I didn't know what love looked like until you showed me, he said, voice soft. Not just in the way you care for Liam or lead your team or pour your soul into your work, but in the way you see people, including me. He took a breath. You changed my life, Emily. You made it real, and I don't want to take another step without you. He opened the box. Inside was a delicate ring, simple and elegant, just like her. Emily Rivers, he asked. Kneeling, will you marry me? Her eyes filled with tears. She didn't hesitate. Yes. They were married 4 months later in a greenhouse-style venue just outside the city. Not a lavish ballroom, not a castle or cathedral, just a space full of lifelight and love. Liam walked her down the aisle, proud and beaming. The Vantage creative team designed the invitations. Kara from HR gave a toast, and even Victoria Calloway sat, stone-faced, yes, but present. Nathan, in his vows, said, catching you that day in the elevator wasn't an accident. It was the moment my life truly began. And Emily, she simply promised never to forget that love is messy, terrifying, and imperfect, but still the most powerful thing we're ever allowed to feel. As they danced beneath strings of glowing bulbs and the buzz of cicadas outside, Emily laughed into Nathan's chest. Any regrets about marrying your former boss, he teased. She grinned. Only that we spent so much time pretending it was just professional. He spun her gently under the night sky. And just like that, the girl who once thought she'd fainted her way out of a future had fallen into a life better than she ever dared to dream. Sometimes life doesn't fall apart. It just falls into place in the most unexpected ways. Emily Rivers thought her story was one of survival. She thought she'd always be fighting uphill battles, scraping by, holding everything together with duct tape and dreams. But the day she collapsed in that elevator was the day fate rewrote her story. It wasn't luck that saved her. It was her courage to show up even when the odds were stacked against her. It was her heart, resilient, fierce, and unshakable, that drew people in, that turned strangers into allies, and a powerful CEO into a man willing to risk everything for love. This wasn't a fairy tale. It was the kind of love story that grows out of shared challenges, honest conversations, and brave choices. A romance that unfolded not in candlelit castles, but in corporate corridors, crowded elevators, and quiet rooftop gardens. And in the middle of it all was a young woman who never stopped fighting for her family, for her dreams, and eventually, for herself. If you've ever felt like you don't belong, if you've ever feared that your past disqualifies you from something beautiful, if you've ever stood at the edge of opportunity terrified of falling, remember Emily's story. Sometimes falling isn't failing. Sometimes it's just how the right story begins. So keep showing up, keep believing in your worth, and when life surprises you, don't run. Lean in. Because love, the real kind, it sees everything you carry and still says, you belong with me.